Hey everyone, Andrew Hall, Dr. Kennard. Here with me is 420 Atheist and Dr. Tomfoolery, cryptocryptology instigator. I don't know how I feel about the instigator part, but I like you. I like the cut of your jib, Dr. Tomfoolery. Sammy was just talking how he almost bled out through his nose over the weekend by a child-related incident, too, no less.
Yes, putting my young one to bed, and he's head butted me with a flying headbutt. And
The worst kind of headbutt, the flying
the
headbutt.
the crunch was so loud, and there was so much blood from both nostrils. And within in a minute or two, I had to get down on the ground. It was like my blood pressure just dropped,
Yeah,
and I become instantly nauseous. I was pissing sweat, and my partner rang what's called Health Direct here. It's like a number to call if you're not sure,
right.
is this an emergency? Um, and she described what was happening, and she said yes. There's a very good possibility that bone's gone up in the wrong direction and so on. But it was 11 o'clock at night. We were doing respite with a participant. We have a 5-month-old baby who's still breastfeeding. The logistics were just, and she said, no, you can't call an ambulance because it's not an emergency, but you should go to the ED. So I didn't go, obviously.
Right.
I'm
How long?
fine.
I'm sure this is what everyone's wondering right now. Gosh, Sammy, how long did it take it to stop bleeding?
About half an hour. When we rang, it was about 20 minutes, which is when she said, yeah, you should probably go at this point.
Right.
But it did eventually. It clotted and
Oh
it
yeah.
stopped bleeding. And see, I've never broken anything. I've never had a busted nose, so I didn't even know how to pinch it.
Right.
And my partner's saying pinch it, and I'm pinching it right up here
Yeah.
on a bone, which is doing nothing. Um,
Oh
so
man, dude. Um, I'm glad that you didn't die from a nosebleed.
it was touch and go. I thought that could have been it.
Of all the stupid ways to die, right? This is it. This is what's going to happen. This is how it ends.
Yeah, yeah. Head butted by my 5-year-old.
Yep.
Well, I, I've been saying for probably 12 months now, he's gonna be the death of me. But I was only kidding. See,
Yeah.
now
Yeah.
I'm not so sure that it's a joke.
Children can be, yeah, yeah. Children can be difficult in terms of their unintended actions that can cause physical harm. I blew out at least one of my ankles just by tripping over their crap. And I think Al, my youngest, who had to have been like maybe 3 or 4, I think that's where she's still. I think, when she talks to her therapist in another 10 years or so, I'm sure she'll be bringing that up.
Well, my partner shattered her shoulder. Has 7 fractures. Just opening the front door, but she had her nappy bag, what we call a nappy bag, on her arm, and the child in her other arm. And so it's like her ankle just gave way,
Yep.
and the force that she used to hold herself, the baby, and everything, her shoulder just went bang and shattered.
Dude, that's horrible.
So she's laying on the driveway out the front screaming, and the neighbors all came running, and I was at work with a participant, and
Yep. That's, I, having been born, as I like to call it, having been born sick to some extent. When my kids were really small, I really brought a carriage with me all the time. I never trusted my body. I never trusted my body to hold and walk with them at the same time. To this day, I got to wear high top sneakers to make sure I don't fall. I, I, I think a lot about my ankles in space, being there in space. But yeah, yeah. Um,
Mm.
it just brings up the one of my many anxiety points. One of my like watch Andy get anxious thinking about carrying children with this.
Mm. And I'm sure everyone's found that that's the case, but um, once I ruined my ankle, or once I rolled it good and proper, it's never been the same. It's
Yeah.
like um, you just damage it in a way that it doesn't repair properly, I suppose.
And tell me if I'm wrong on this, right? During your 20s, your teens and your 20s, you're thinking, and this does happen, your body just bounces back really fast from crap, right? I remember spraining my ankle while visiting a buddy in college, and I ran on that thing. I drank on that thing. I did all kinds of stuff. But now it's like, I don't think it would. I don't think I would bounce back so rapidly from blowing out my ankle, from rolling, just mentioning rolling my ankle.
Well, I was about to say that. I think the fear we have of those things now, um,
Oh, yeah.
it boggles the mind. When I was would have been late high school, there was a school dance, so I was still in high school, and it was a 70s theme,
Okay, yeah, yeah.
and so tight pants and tight shirt, and for whatever reason, I was racing somebody. We were trying to figure out who was the fastest or whatever. But of course, this was on a road,
Right.
and this particular road wasn't a nice, smooth asphalt. It was stones, like a combination of stones and
Yeah,
tar. It was
sure.
very, very rough and jagged. And so we're racing, and I just left this guy for dead, and everyone's like cheering, and I'm just top of the world, like, yeah, man, this is great. And then it was like slow motion. I just see the road heading towards me as I'm running, and all of a sudden, yeah, I'm sliding like I don't know how far. It felt like 20 meters,
Wow,
but
man.
I got up and I was shredded.
Shredded blood.
Yeah, yeah.
A
And of
thousand
course, I
cuts.
wasn't missing the school dance because there was a
Of
girl I
course
liked.
not.
So I'm dancing in these tight clothes that's like pressing against all these wounds. And,
That's hilarious, dude. That's very
I still got my groove on.
that's very romantic comedy kind of opening scene there. That's very much that.
That reminds me of a
That's like
post.
the opening scene to the movie of my life.
Uh,
What's
that
up, Dave?
reminded me of a post that Andy did this weekend of the road rising to meet Jim.
Oh yeah, yeah, that's right. I was feeling pretty good over the weekend actually. This is before the COVID scare and everything. Yeah, but things. I was feeling pretty good. I'll tell you this other story, right, about racing. About I this is about maybe 10 years ago, so I'm like 43. I'd been exercising at the gym, and when I was going to the gym regularly, I would just be on the treadmill, not just the treadmill, but on the ellipse, right? So it's basically non very low impact aerobic exercise. And somehow I got into a race, or got into a sprint, right, with I think it was with one of my kids. And as soon as I started sprinting, it came to I realized how fast I was, right? Because I had dropped some weight and I'd been working out a lot, and all of a sudden it terrified me. It's like, wow, I didn't realize I could run this fast, and now I'm really concerned.
That's like when I
Has
give my
that
bike a tune up and I get scared about how fast I'm going on it.
Yeah. How you doing, Dave? You
I'm
want to say
well.
hello?
Can you
Yeah.
hear me? Are we
Yeah,
good?
yeah, we can hear you.
Little
Yeah.
test. Check.
Right.
Yeah, I'm doing well. Happy British Columbia Day to all of my British Columbia. If Cryptomaria is in here, I don't see her, but cheers.
Well,
So-
so British Columbia Day. I didn't know there was any such thing.
Well, of course there is. I mean, it's the best day of the year.
Right. Does British Columbia have its own song?
We have our own flag.
You have your own flag. Right.
Don't
I
worry,
mean-
Dave. I feel your pain. That story Andy did tonight about the army, that happened when COVID hit in January 2020. So it's like the rest of the world just caught on and thought, oh, this is a cool story. That is such old news, but it shows how unimportant Australia is in the scheme of things.
Yeah, and you can just smell the disdain in his voice when every time he has to say Health Canada in the text.
Yep. I don't know, man. I don't know how the rest of the cut. Like I said, we're staying in New England for vacation. We're going on vacation 2 weeks from now, and we're just going up to Vermont, which is the most heavily vaccinated state in the union at this point. And that's it. There's no correlation equals causation. It's all causation. The cause of us going to Vermont as against to Pennsylvania is because of the high vaccination rate in Vermont.
Pennsylvania doesn't have a high vaccination rate?
Well, in comparison to Vermont, let me look at U.S.
Now,
state.
is that because Pennsylvania has a high population in rural areas?
Well, it probably, from what I've seen, it doesn't have a bad vaccination rate in comparison to the rest of the states.
Oh, okay.
But really, it's Vermont and Massachusetts being, I believe, at the top.
And maybe Pennsylvania's low because of old Amish. They don't like doing vaccinations and newfangled stuff like that.
Right.
Well, did you see, Dave, that we're up to 20%?
20% fully vaccinated? Wow.
That was impressive. I did see that. I did hear that. That's a pretty big jump in a short period of time.
Yeah. I don't know what we are. I stopped looking when it became insignificant.
Well, and I wanted to say, who was it? I don't think he's here now. Scott Henry? Is it Scott Henry? James Henry.
James Henry, yeah.
He was saying about that using the soldiers the way that they are is a form of populism, which I can see that. But I also think that a part of it is those soldiers are sitting on a base doing nothing. They're getting paid the same amount. So it costs the government nothing to use them in that way and save the police force having to knock on doors and chase COVID idiots. But having said that, I do agree that exposing our soldiers to potential COVID is possibly not the most ethical thing to do, but I mean, it's them or the police force, so either way.
Right. Yeah, I'm not. Yeah, especially since the soldiers were unarmed. Who's got the crack? Dave, are you snacking over there?
No.
Someone's snacking.
I think it's Dr. Tomfoolery,
Dr. Tomfoolery,
cryptology instigator.
What?
Did you bring snacks and you didn't bring enough for everyone else here? I hear the crackling of snacks.
I'm just opening up some crackers here.
Crackers.
Yeah.
No, it's too early for crackers here.
Oh, I had crackers for second breakfast. I'm not going to lie to you.
It sounds like you're really struggling getting that bag open.
I was trying to do my best to keep it as quiet as possible.
Dr. Tomfoolery is a cryptology instigator. He is not a snack pack unwrapper, my friend. That is not what his advanced degree is in. So, no, I just looked at the statistics. So Pennsylvania is ranked 20th in terms of states, in terms of those who are fully vaccinated, with about 52.5% of the population fully vaccinated. Vermont is 67.6%, and Massachusetts is 64. So yeah, we just felt safer for Vermont versus Pennsylvania. And we think there's probably more knuckleheads visiting Pennsylvania too, just because it's close to knucklehead states.
Fair enough, yeah. And I see that the girlfriend says you're going to be really close to Canada, although she spelled it wrong.
Canada. Get enough people calling it Canada, it's going to be Canada.
They're not going to let you in. I have friends at CBSA.
No, really. So this is what it comes down to: brute force. I
And-
say let those who are pro-Canada speak.
Well, I'm not going to crap all over your percentages or anything, but across Canada, I couldn't find specifically for BC, but I know BC is higher than the average.
Yeah.
But right now, the percent of fully vaccinated is 59.6%, and that's
Okay.
probably 3 days old. So
Yeah. Well, these numbers are 3 days old too.
yeah.
So yeah. Wow, James Henry saying Canuckistan. All right, so you have a chance. You have a choice. Dave.
No.
You have Canucks-
Canuck, like the Canucks are from Canada, but they're Vancouver based. They're not even British Columbia based. They're Vancouver based. So you can't really throw that out there for the whole country. They wouldn't like it. Toronto would revolt. The country would separate. That not a good thing.
So what would you rather have, Dave? Canuckistan or Canada?
Do you know what Canada actually means?
This was just my attempt to get Dave to say Canada. By the way, that was just a cheap.
A cheap oak, was it? Yeah. Canada actually means village in the Inuit language. When the explorers came here, they pointed to the west and said, Canada. They were pointing towards the village.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. See, I learned something new today.
Yeah, those white people, after being on a boat for 3 months and having no clean water and barely any food, when they got here, they had a tough time figuring stuff out.
Yeah, I could see that. Yeah. I could see that.
Yeah. So, what's going on in your week there, Doctor Job Search? What's the plan?
I'm glad you asked. So I am working this week up until Friday. I am going to be then. I'm giving myself a week off, so I'm done with this job this Friday, and then I'm going to be starting my new job, or the orientation for the new job, in 2 weeks. So I'm going to have like a full week off of not actually vacationing, and I'll be able to do things like do some serious writing, do some video production stuff, which I've been meaning to do, but I've been too busy to do because I've been working during the day. And then, is that the call, Dave? Is that the bathroom?
No, it's the dispatch already came out today. It's BC Day, so it's a holiday, so it's premium wages. So I'm not even getting close to
You're
work.
not even on the list. So yeah, so I am dropping actually this week. I'm hearing an echo. I'm wondering who it's from.
Just keep talking and we'll work through it.
Okay, thank you. So I'm dropping a video tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern of Jonathan Borello. Jonathan is a comedian, a cartoonist, an atheist, super smart guy. He's up in Canada. He's up in Montreal, actually. And we had a really good conversation about mental health, comics, mental health, atheism, mental health. There's a lot of mental health stuff in our conversation. And so I'm dropping that at 8 p.m. tonight. Should be a good time.
I would actually assume that mental health is more like the idea that mental health is health. I think that would be more an accepted thing in the Quebec, the province of Quebec, especially the city of Montreal. They seem to be more on board with that than the rest of the country is, from my perspective. But
what's interesting is that Jonathan made, and I don't want to give away the whole interview.
No.
But he made some interesting choices during the pandemic, and he seems to be a lot happier. And part of that is working through his, because he was brought up in a religious household, And so he has made significant improvement. He's been able to work through a lot of his religious past, his baggage during the pandemic. And so it seems as if he's actually gotten better.
Yeah.
And he's also putting out a book. Because he's a cartoonist, because he's a comic book. He's a drawer of pictures. He has a Kickstarter for a comic book he has out called Barb, and he's also done Blinking and Sal. He's on Pathos. He's one of those Pathos non-religious people, and really talented. Well, the conversation went for about 45 minutes.
Yeah, I can't wait till Matt Gates starts writing back to you on Pathos. That'll be great.
Oh, you know, I mean, I've gotten, there was that Ted Cruz story that made it into like USA Today, that reference to, and so I'm just waiting for someone to take the bait. I'm just hoping.
And it'll be either Gates or Marjorie Taylor Greene. It'll be one of the two of them.
Oh yeah. I'm just waiting for my mention. That's all. I have very low wants, to tell you the truth. I have very low needs. Getting mentioned by one of those clowns would be great.
Sorry, can I just to save me typing in the chat? Sorry to interrupt, guys, but John, that may have just been the intro, which isn't actually me. I think the song starts at about 1:30. The intro is almost as long as the video. I shouldn't have had the intro, but it's like a template that's I use, and I just chucked the song on that template. So it has this big long intro, but yeah, if you skip to about 1.5 minutes is where the thing that you're looking for starts.
Cool.
Sorry, carry on.
Can I jump in? I just wanted to say on the mental health thing, it seems like to me, and obviously I'll have to watch the linked show when it comes on. I'm sure it'll come up in your feed. But it seems to me that this whole idea of being on video and video conferencing and having a one-on-one chat with somebody and not having to go to an office, not having to go out in public, not having to deal with that stigma in public of mental health, that there's probably a lot more people who have reached out to get help during this past year and a half.
Yeah, I would agree with that. What's interesting, when Andrew Spitsness, he did the video. We had a conversation about movies, basically. Andrew, he's a psychiatrist, so he's a movie reviewer as well as a psychiatrist. And one of the interesting things he mentioned about his role when he's doing therapy is this diffuse attention, right? So it isn't like you're really, it's this, once again, this attention that isn't just focused on a person's face, but it's all over their body, because people communicate a variety of different ways, right?
Absolutely.
And doing this right here, right, we can see each other's faces, but I wonder if just sharing a screen with someone inhibits a therapist's ability to really to use that kind of diffuse attention that's required with therapy. I don't know. I don't know if there's been any studies about that either.
But I think it's like anything, you have to take the first step. And I think it's a lot easier to take this first step. And if somebody did 3 sessions with you and said, I think you'd really find some value about coming in and seeing me one-on-one, let's make an appointment. They'd be far more comfortable at that.
There's no doubt about that, Dave.
Yeah, I think it's that initial take the first step that it opens the door to, and that's definitely a good thing for everyone, right? So
yeah, no doubt. If you are, if there is something that's getting in the way of how did Freud describe mental illness? It's something that gets in the way of living, loving, working, then taking this paraphrasing Freud, the first step or a step of just talking to someone, a professional, in this kind of space, that's great. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And the great thing about doing therapy is that people in therapy typically are motivated to get better. That's why they're there, right? That's why they're there to begin with. So, and really what the therapist does, they help create this kind of space for the person to explore different issues and help themselves get better.
and learn tools on how to deal with it.
Oh yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Although
Well,
I gotta say, it doesn't work the same way as, like, you hear these things all the time about stop smoking methods. I don't know. I don't want to call them scams.
I will scams.
Yeah, it's really funny that the people who reach out to pay $400 for a stop smoking program actually want to stop smoking.
Yes.
Huh. Who'd have thought, right?
Yes. Yes. But
I
I mean,
always said here in Australia, anyway, I don't know what they were like price wise elsewhere, but when they first come out with like the sprays and the gums and all of those things, they were or are so ridiculously expensive.
yes.
When now tobacco here in Australia, I think we're the most expensive in the world. A packet of, say, 25 cigarettes here is $40 to $50.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, that's crazy, dude.
What does that convert
I'm
to
not.
in Canadian dollars? It can't be that far out. Like,
we're about 70 or 80 cents of Canadian, so nearly the same.
it's still 30 bucks.
It's
a lot of money.
disgusting, but it's a disgusting thing. I forget the point.
I don't think our weed is that expensive.
No, dude, I think weed is less expensive than cigarettes in a lot of places, especially if you're growing it yourself.
Oh, that's right. But the sprays and things are like $50, $70, $80. So when you're paying so much to get your packet of cigarettes, you have to forego your cigarettes to try this thing, that you have this anxiety. If it doesn't work, I can't afford my cigarettes now, and I'm stuck with this thing that doesn't work. I'll just get a pack of ciggies.
Yeah.
And I thought if the government really gave a shit, these things would be either subsidized, if not free, to smokers who signed up to a program or whatever, not just kids walking in off the street.
Now, don't kick me out of the stream for saying this, but in Canada,
Here it comes, Dave.
Hit it.
Go ahead, Dave. Say it.
in Canada, our healthcare covers stop smoking programs.
You would think that it makes perfect sense to do that, because wouldn't you rather spend money on getting people to stop smoking as against to people having lung cancer?
Well,
or
COPD? That's why it's not called Medicine Canada. It's called Health Canada. They support a lot of different programs, and they want to make Canadians healthier because we don't want to get eaten by the critters that are out in our yard.
And see, why would the government want us to stop smoking when the tobacco company gets $2.50 for the packet of cigarettes and the government gets $38?
Oh,
it's all tax. That whole amount is tax.
Yeah.
The cigarettes are still worth whatever they are, like in Thailand where you pay $3 for a packet of cigarettes. But
everything that starts with "but in Canada" always makes everyone not from Canada despise you. Dave, I joke, but I need to know more about Canada from the source.
I'm going to start writing about the mythical land of Canada just to keep people away.
I have the book of, I don't know if you can see this from up here. I have all the books of Narnia. And I swear to God that it's about Canada. Talking animals, right? Lions.
Well, if you're high enough, the animals will talk to you.
we invented the drop bear for that reason. But then we realized that the real animals here are just as scary.
Way scarier.
Just advertise that.
Right.
When I heard about the drop bears, I'm like, how do they survive with all the crap there that can kill them? Yeah. It's a strange world we live in when you weigh that idea of profiteering, and in the United States, the PACs and the super PACs are one of the most frightening things that is still allowed in the U.S. system. I mean, to allow people with money to control politicians and to control voters. I mean, how that is the seat of corruption. It's
Well, it's about free speech, Dave. You Canadians wouldn't understand free speech. It isn't bribing politicians. It's money is speech here.
actually in Canada. No, I'm just
I like James Henry's comment there.
Oh, which one?
Andy. He's.
Okay. Let me get this.
I've been told.
I've been told that the USA is Canada and Mexico.
Canada's Mexico.
Canada's Mexico.
Canada's Mexico. Yeah. Well, I can see that. I could definitely see that.
Well, there are certain places. I mean, we've talked about it before about Canada doing the adopt a U.S. state thing, right?
Right.
And if there was less Trumpers in Washington, we'd consider it. If there was a lot less Trumpers in Oregon, we'd consider it. But poor California. I mean, poor California. We have all the water they need. We have enough, facilities to build.
Dave, brother, if you keep saying Canada has all the water,
I know, right?
You're going to be invaded. You're going to be Iraq, because whenever we move from like oil to whatever, we're still going to need water, and we know where the water is. It's up there.
Well, that's why Canada gave Nestle all that water for $1 a year, right? And there was a huge backlash over that. They're bottling our water and selling it to you for $1.59 US a bottle.
Yeah.
And they get like a kajillion gallons for $1.
Mm-hmm.
All they're paying for is the plastic bottles, which end up in the landfill.
Are you trying to tell me that Canada is buying its freedom via water rights?
Well, that and our
that sounds like tribute. If I was in ancient Rome right now, I'd be like, yes, this place, it keeps its kind of freedom by giving us its water.
I'll tell you, if Canada didn't allow the U.S. to patrol our airspace and to actively collaborate with us on bases, we have Canadian citizens that go down and work on U.S. bases, and they have U.S. citizens that come up here. If we didn't do that, if we didn't allow them in our airspace, if we didn't give them our maple syrup, and we dammed up all the rivers that were going across the border, I don't think it would be more than 10 or 12 years before the United States executed some sort of backlash against Canada in a very serious way, like very serious embargoes, tariffs. It wouldn't take long.
Those are acts of war that you're describing, Dave. So.
Well, yes and no. I mean, America puts America first and Canada puts Canada first. So eventually that water is going to stop flowing.
Yeah, it's there'll be a special arrangement about water, even more than there is now in 50 or 100 years.
In 50 or 100 years, there's going to be the Niagara Falls War, and they're going to split it right down the middle. And they're going to you get half the water, we get half the water, and then we'll just go up the river and shut it off.
You know what will happen? This is actually a prediction. I'm going to call it right here, is that the U.S. will fund an insurgency in Quebec to peel Quebec away from Canada.
Oh, that'll work. That would work today.
I know it would, dude. That's why it's so fucking brilliant, dude. This is why it's so fucking brilliant.
Yeah.
We will fund an insurgency. Quebec will secede from Canada, and the deal will be that they just give us all the water we want from Quebec. Yeah. Bam, just like that.
And the Atlantic provinces would all support that too, because not having Quebec there would make the drive to Toronto so much shorter.
Well, there you go.
That's a Newfie joke.
I understand what you did there, Dave. I understand what you did there.
Oh, jeez. Well, it's been an interesting chat so far. I mean, what did we miss that you brought up on your channel this morning, other than that weird-looking cow that obviously was a chupacabra?
Right. I'm really excited about defunding the police, as you could probably tell. I'm really excited about defunding the police. The more I can do to push that story, that theme, that meme, I will. Yeah.
Yeah, I just hate the slogan, but the idea is one of those things that's so long overdue that it might actually happen now.
Mhm.
Well, in some society, in some cities, in some municipalities, it is.
Yeah. I
Um,
think it's great if you're not going to pay the policeman $400 an hour to do what they do and do, like, you know, show up and do, you know, crime investigation, to do crime intervention, to do you know, psychology, to do all this stuff, then you have to support them with people who can.
well,
And
you know, there are some countries that are able to do it. It's just that we have so much baggage here in the States about policing and entrenched police unions. It's difficult to change the culture on a pivot, right? It's difficult to change behavior in general, but to pivot and to force, you know, this institution or series of institutions, really, because it isn't a monolithic thing. That's tough to do.
are they still painting like "to serve and protect" on the side of the police cars, or have they just gone to like force projection? Is that
I think it's just the Punisher emblem. This that's what I think it is at this point.
Saw a clip last night. Was somebody's lawyer questioning a police officer who had arrested someone for drink driving.
All right.
And it was just a short clip. And it was the lawyer saying, so you breathalyzed him? And he said, yep. And he said, and it was negative. And the policeman said, yep. So you did a sobriety test? And he said, yep. And did he pass it? And he said, he did everything I required of him. And he said, and you still arrested him? And the police tried to say, yeah, because I still believed he was intoxicated. And the lawyer just said, I rest my case, and walked off.
That was the mic drop.
The breathalyzer was negative. He passed the sobriety test, but the policeman still arrested him for drink driving.
Yes, and
On
that-
what was his reasonable cause or his evidence or whatever?
Did you know where this was? Do you know what state or?
No, I don't know the state.
Yeah.
Just
Dave, I just want to say that I think you're the echoer, Dave. We were in a non-echo environment.
I'm going to jump out and jump back in then.
All right. Yeah.
I'll see if I find it later, and I'll send you the link.
Yeah, dude, please do. That cop, the police officer, you know, should have something happen to them for doing that kind of level of idiocy, right? Because that's breaking public trust. This is why people are afraid to call the cops. Hey, Dave.
Hey.
And that was the thing. That case was just.
Dave, I know it's you. I know it's you, Dave. I know
Breakfast
it's you.
chips.
Breakfast chips, the best chips you can get.
Sorry.
Breakfast of champions.
Yeah, indeed.
Is the echo gone?
The echo's gone, dude. Yeah.
Sammy, I interrupted you. I'm sorry. I apologize.
Oh no, it's fine. I think it's pretty.
Sam was
much
just
done.
talking about the cop who arrested someone on suspicions of drunk driving, even though the person passed the road test. You know, the walk, you know, whatever, the physical test. They passed the breathalyzer, and the cop still arrested him just because he thought he should, because he had the
He
feel.
believed he was drunk or inebriated.
But I mean, that's sort of a nuisance thing. And
Is it, Dave?
Well,
Is it a nuisance thing?
hear me out. I think the police have a very difficult job, and this is all part of defund the police. They are stretched way beyond their capabilities in some instances. And if you have a person and you say to them, I'm going to give you a roadside sobriety test, and they are really close to failing it, like you have reason to believe that they are intoxicated on something, but you give them a alcohol test and they pass, they may still be intoxicated. They may still be on something that inhibits their driving ability. So if the person is uncooperative and they have drug paraphernalia all over their car, you take them off the road.
I gotta tell you, the way how free societies work in general is that there's an acceptance that guilty parties will walk free. That is the deal. That there are going to be some guilty parties who walk free, as against to having innocent people locked up. If there's going to be some kind of compromise there, and compromise that free societies being free is that we don't want innocent people, in theory, locked up, and that means that some guilty people are going to walk around. And if the person passes the tests, then they should be, then they pass the
And
test.
and I suppose the way I look at it, Dave, is that that's the bar we've set as society that you must pass. So if you can down 3 bottles of whiskey and pass, then we've deemed that you're right to drive.
Yeah, I mean, if you can, and the thing is too, once you, and once again, here in the States, everything is seen through the race, through the lens of race too.
Yes.
So when you give cops leeway here, not talking about Canada, talking about here, once you give them leeway,
You're making that vein on my forehead pop.
then excellent, doing the job. Then that just gives them more of an opportunity to do what they've always done.
Yeah, I agree with you there. But I also think that there is a responsibility on the person who has the authority to investigate somebody for being incapable of driving.
Sure.
But they have to make the best judgment call. And we have a legal and court system, which in that case would probably free the guy from any wrongdoing. He wouldn't need a lawyer. It's just show up. Hey, I passed the sobriety test. What am I doing here?
You know, in a perfect world where the police have a history
I was about to say, Andy,
of harassing people who
to
don't
put
look
it this
like
way,
me, who are
as a
brown
third-
and black skinned. In a perfect world, I would totally agree with you. We do not live in that world, brother.
as a third party here, this is clearly the difference between somebody who lives somewhere where that's a possibility, as opposed to someone whose country is well beyond that point. And I don't think that that's even a possibility.
I have to agree with you. I am speaking from my own personal experience.
Yes.
And I have been in a vehicle with multiple differently race people and have been pulled over by police in Canada and have all been treated just like, hey, dickhead, get out of the car. It doesn't matter what, although there was one time when I was felony stopped in the United States. And even I noticed, like, they're going a bit harder on this one guy because it seems like they might be a little bit racist.
Yeah. And I'm sure that those, I'm sure the same cops would be like, I'm not racist.
Well, yeah.
But that's a good observation, Sam. You know, how you see the play depends on where you sit. And here in the States, we have a particular view that, Canadians don't have.
But in Canada, we are acceptable losses, what you're talking about, the number of people who die on the highways, the number of people who die in planes, the number of people who don't get medical attention, the number of people who don't get mental health care and something happens to them. These are what society deems as acceptable losses, right? When we go to war, we have acceptable losses. When we drive down the highway, we know that 1 million people in North America die a year on the highway, and we don't make the highways better.
Well, it's an interesting point that you bring up, Dave. And Sam Harris has said this on a variety of occasions. If people really wanted to cut down highway deaths, the speed limit would be 30 miles per hour. And we don't accept that. And it's like, I'm going, maybe this we stuff you speak too broadly. Having, worked with people with brain injuries from car crashes, maybe a 30 mile per hour speed limit I could advocate.
Or what about actually making valuable, working, functional transit systems What about actually making a rail system where you can put a car on and you can go from Massachusetts to New York in a day with your car parked on a train?
Though I do feel somehow you're advocating more work for the longshoremen somehow in
You
this.
bet your ass.
That's what I think.
See, I listen to that and I think about it, and I just jumped on and I was curious as to where Australia stands on incarcerating our Indigenous as opposed to America with minorities. And I think it's, if I remember correctly, what America's statistics are, it looks like we're the same.
Oh, really?
So our Indigenous population makes up 3% of the population, but take up 30% of our prison system.
That's pretty crazy, dude.
30.
That's crazy.
Now,
you know what
who
you
put
need?
people in prison? Who make the arrest? Yes, the courts and the judge, but who make the arrests?
I thought Australia was started as a prison colony to begin with.
So,
yeah, and I'm not saying there isn't racism in Canada. I'm just saying the level is it's way lower than the United States, and it's getting lower every year. Sure. And I think I've told you about an incident with a person of race who was a very, very good friend of mine, who we went into a bar and he told me to go in first and watch the reaction when he walks into the bar. And I nearly cried. Like the way he was treated compared to the way I was treated were literally opposite ends of the spectrum. Sure. And this was a place where we both lived within a couple of blocks of this place, and we went there quite frequently. And I was heartbroken watching my friend be treated like this. So there are things like that going on here. That was 20 years ago, and we've come a long way, baby, but we still have a long road ahead of us.
Yeah. True enough.
Going back to the speed limit thing, St. Paul, Minnesota, the place I live, actually reduced their speed limits on all the neighborhood streets down to 20 miles per hour.
Boston did that too, to tell you the truth. Yeah. Unless posted otherwise, the speed limit within the city of Boston is 20.
Okay.
So, that's been a thing that's happening in a variety of cities throughout the country.
Yeah. And there's also they're doing when they're repaving roads too. They're doing ways of managing traffic to make people go slower. So it isn't like traffic bump, but there are elevated surfaces that make you slow down. Otherwise, you're going to wreck your car.
As a person riding a e-truck around, I hate those.
Well, I gotta say, if you've talked to if you get the chance, there's all kinds of people who have talked about this issue of millions of people dying per year in traffic accidents. And they've talked to road planners and city planners about what can we do? Everyone knows the last 3 minutes of your drive out of every hour is the most dangerous because you're looking for your house keys, you're checking that text message, you're doing whatever. Too many people are screwing it up. So it's mostly, blowing a residential stop sign or whatever. There are people who screw up on major streets and highways. That happens as well.
Yeah.
But for the most part, the majority of the accidents at speed happen within the last 3 minutes of home. So city planners have told over and over and over have told cities, one-way streets and roundabouts. You want to solve the problem, keep people going in the same direction. You reduce the number of head-on collisions, right? That's why we don't have undivided highways anymore. You got people going 70 miles an hour in a tractor trailer. There's no one going to get in front of them going the wrong way.
Yeah.
And if they do, something went horribly wrong.
Did you just say that the answer is roundabouts?
It's a combination of things, but roundabouts and differently designed freeway on-ramps clear traffic and are much safer. The road, like you were saying about the roads, winding roads have less opportunity for someone to get to an out of control speed.
Yeah.
Sloped, like in Canada, we have to worry about what happens when the roads get icy and snowy. How do we handle that, right? Mm-hmm. So we literally have to close roads down here and say, go the other way to get home, right? There's all kinds of things like that we can do, and we just don't.
Yeah. Well, it's
We
like what I
do.
said.
Roundabouts.
Oh, go ahead.
Roundabouts really are the answer. We discovered that probably about 20 years ago. We stopped putting lights in four-way intersections and just put roundabouts. And as long as you have the right rules and then people follow those rules, and people use them with confidence, the traffic doesn't stop in all directions rather than stopping at lights.
And it's better for fuel economy, it's better for the environment, it's better for traffic flow, and it's better for safety. And we still don't do it.
Yeah, roundabouts are only good if people actually follow the rules, and you can't necessarily trust all the people around here.
Well, people have been taught, like in Canada, we started using roundabouts a long time ago. So that is part of the driver training program now. And has been for over a decade, I think. Yeah.
So now I'm looking up rotaries and safety.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I got into it and I was watching the scenarios of how to change the freeway on-ramps and make them more efficient and all that stuff, and how to change.
You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to blame my ignorance on the the three smarter people here for not telling me about this earlier. So I'm looking at this the snippet from the New York Times back in 2020. It says, quote, "When properly designed with sidewalks on the perimeter, they are said to be safer for pedestrians as well. The Federal Highway Administration," I'm not getting distracted, says roundabouts reduce crashes that cause serious injury by 78 to 82%.
Yeah.
When compared to traffic signal intersections. Holy fuck.
Yeah.
Come on, America.
I think that's just pedestrian incidents too. That's not necessarily car-to-car incidents, right?
Well, I'm just looking at it. It says that reduce crashes.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Because what happens too with pedestrians is what do you have at lights that you don't have at roundabouts? Cars and pedestrians. You don't cross at a roundabout. Your pedestrian crossing will be somewhere further on a road where you're just crossing a road.
Yeah.
Not an intersection.
They're before the roundabout.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Wow. Well,
yeah, there's a variety of weird things that have been put in place in Twin Cities area here for that stuff. There's one on-ramp section to the freeway that was put in where everyone crossed over and was effectively going the British way of doing things, where you drive on the other side of the road from how we usually do it during the on-ramp, off-ramp section, so that there was better control of all the traffic.
I'll tell you, it was eye-opener for me when the first time I was in London, when I went through the subways, right? It wasn't the tube, it wasn't like, the trains, but it was the subways. You'd like these pedestrians would just go under the road. And it's like, well, that was like a light bulb in my head. It's like, why doesn't this happen more often as it gets to having to cross?
You know what? I like to analogize the States as, and I've made this analogy before, but you have a bunch of siblings, and you always have that one sibling who has to do it different. And then they realize it doesn't work that great, but they're obstinate and they can't be proven wrong. So they make workarounds and excuses and
You're right about that.
Andy, do you know about the transit system in Vancouver and how, like, originally back in the day they had steam trains that went through the tunnels under the city, and when they built the new transit system, which is called the SkyTrain, the SkyTrain uses those rail tunnels that were built like way back when Vancouver was first put together. We actually had like San Francisco does, except we had electrical trolley cars going around Vancouver. So there was rail tracks through Vancouver up until the 80s. But underground, they used the CN rail that went under the city to the dock, and they actually, repurposed that. So in Vancouver, there's, I think, 5 of the Sky train stops are underground.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. I did not know that.
If you ever come to Vancouver.
Well, we planned to head over there at some point, Dave, and to irritate you and Neil the 604 atheist and Randolph. There's a whole,
If you
spread the blight tour that we're planning.
if you stay here with me, we're really close to Neil, so we can pester him all the time.
All right, I should start closing down the show. I got to go to work later on.
Okay.
Oh, fair enough.
Yeah. So I'm dropping that video at 8 p.m. this evening with Jonathan Barello. So I'm dropping it. That's really my news. Besides doing the show tomorrow too.
And you're on. You have plans to be on all week. Do you have other stuff going on? Is it Friday or Sunday? When do you do the other thing?
Well, actually, my buddy Jack and I, we decided to stop doing the late show because Jack's childcare schedule has changed. So now we're actually moving Laughing in Disbelief into some prime time.
Nice.
Time slots. So tonight at 8 p.m., that's an example of the prime time slot. So I'll probably be doing in the future, moving forward, since my schedule is changing and I'll have more time during the day. I'll be having more videos during prime time too.
Excellent.
Yes.
And please get the girlfriend to stop saying that word.
Never. Hey, Dr. Cyrus. How you doing, Doctor?
Last thing I wanted to say, Andy, you were talking a while back about we needed a sign that we could give to other atheists.
Right.
And I found it. So it's like the power symbol, but with the thumb out. So just stick your thumb, like give a thumb a fist bump, but you stick your thumb out.
Right.
Because it's French and Mexican sign language for the letter A.
Oh, this is A, huh?
Yeah. So it's the only sign I could find that's one-handed.
Yeah.
And doesn't either look like a thumbs up already.
Right.
Or just that's also a slight little thumb up is also, I think that might be ASL.
This is A in ASL, right?
Yeah.
But I do think that this is a little bit more positive.
Yeah.
Also, do you guys know about the I need help sign?
No, what is? Oh, it's the tapping on the leg, is it?
No. Well, I'm sure there's multiples. If you see somebody with a lanyard and it has yellow daisies on it, it means either they or the person they're with is probably in need of assistance to do normal things. They might have a disability of some sort.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
But if you see someone hold up their hand and pull in their thumb and wrap their fingers over it, that means they need help.
Oh, okay. That's good to know. I did not know that. All right. I think that's a good place to end the show. Everyone in the chat, thanks for showing up. Panel, you're excellent as always. Tomorrow we're doing the same thing, everyone. 9:00 a.m.
Thank you very much, Andy.
Take care, all.
Hey, Ray.